Hello and welcome to another edition of Vehicles and Videos. I'm Brandon,
Brinton.
and today we are going through our top 10, starting at number 10, down to one of what we thought would be fun drift cars. I guess this is our little bit of a deep dive. Brinton, what
of
car are
number
we
two,
talking
of
about?
number 10. So the
Yeah,
the worst of the best.
yeah, the worst of the best, exactly.
Yeah.
As I look into cars, I just realize I'm like, like drifting is not, no car is really meant to drift, right? It's like you got to change this or that or this or that.
Well, I disagree. I think a lot of cars nowadays, there's several models now that have drift modes. There's several, there's plenty of people, even from watching Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson
Hmm.
from like the 90s, because he's been doing that show forever, of like just getting that back end out on high horsepower saloons and saying, in his accent, like, how much, why does a car have so much power? And as he's spinning the tires going around a turn. Yeah. So
Right. So, okay, so you're right. You can make a car drift, but when you're talking about setting it up for a drift event, I think that's a little bit different, right? And I guess that was my point. Um, and I guess a little off topic, on topic, as I go through and I listen to a lot of our previous podcasts and our previous episodes, I noticed that like one thing is we've been calling drifting cheap, right? And I think it's in comparison, right? It's not a cheap event. It's not a cheap sport. It's not a cheap driving event. It just happens to be less expensive than the preparation and everything that's involved with an endurance event like champs or lemons, right? So when we say cheap, we
agree.
mean
Yeah.
it's cheaper than those two.
Right. Yeah.
You're still going to have
Definitely.
mechanical failures. You're still going to go through tires. There's still going to be other expenses, but it is easier to drive a stock-ish car at a drift event, just like you're saying, with
Right.
your saloon
Yeah.
than it is to drive that stock-ish car without a roll cage at a track event. That's an endurance event, right?
Right.
So I want to make that distinction there. All right, so we're talking about the IS 200 or
300.
300. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they have 200, 250, 300. There's even, I didn't realize, I don't know if I've ever seen one. Apparently, they made a V8 IS that I don't know if I've ever seen. There's the IS
Mm,
500. There's the IS 430. So there's the
right.
IS family, but more specifically, you mentioned the IS 300 because that's the one of the more common ones that drifters go to, because there were some made with the 2JZ manual, not very many.
Yeah. Not very many. So I don't know exact production numbers. I just threw a couple of ISs up on the screen here for us.
Yeah.
I don't know exact production numbers. I thought I heard today that there's like 1,300 made in manual and the rest are all made in automatic.
Probably very accurate. That I would get based on my research. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to get into a pros and cons later, but to me, that is a huge con that you're buying a car that you automatically have to swap a transmission into.
Well, so I don't. I've done it now that we're down this rabbit hole as far as automatic versus manual. Yes, an enthusiast should have a manual for drifting, but that doesn't mean you can't have a blast and be successful on an automatic.
And to be honest, I was half curious, like, well, what if you just put it in like D2 or
Yeah,
I don't know the
yeah,
transmission exactly, but a lot of times, especially for that year, you would have like D1, D2 and just
yeah.
drive, right? So what happens if you just put it in D2 and just pound it on it?
But I think one of the, we're jumping right into it. One of the things is if you did go with this car, you're probably going to have to get an automatic unless you wanted to spend the drift tax that you talked about.
Yeah.
So you would essentially be getting an automatic, and you would be putting it, you would just hold it in second gear. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, it's not like it's impossible to do a transmission swap, right? You could put in a
Right.
manual. Many times though, like what sucks to me is then it's like, okay, you got to delete these coolant hoses or this radiator or, come up with a third pedal or whatever else it ends up being,
Right.
and sometimes sourcing the right parts, making it match with the right transmission or whatever else. The one guy that I saw swap it, he used a transmission out of a Z3. Well, Z3 is a low production vehicle anyway, right? So like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he liked
And
how
if
it's
that's
how
a
much
potentially
smaller that.
expensive transmission for it off the bat, then
Yep.
then an adapter kit plus a clutch and flywheel, you're into it for more than what the car
Yeah.
costs. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the cool thing is it's a 2JZ, right? And with the 2JZ, that's a between the 1JZ and the 2JZ, they're pretty, notorious swap motors.
Mm,
A lot people like to put them in a lot of different cars. So those adapter plates work, like exist. It's not like you're looking for that one off. Okay, I've
that's
got this
true. Yeah.
super rare odd motor and a super odd rare transmission, and I want to make them work, and they just won't.
Right.
So, you know, at least that's nice. Well, let's back up just a little bit here. What I thought might be nice, Brent, what the Lexus, we're obviously Volkswagen people, we're not Japanese people. But what do you like when you think of the Lexus IS? What was your initial thoughts? Like, what's your kind of
So
opinion on it?
one, I mean, like it's undeniable. You look at these pictures, I think of a Toyota Camry. I think
Yeah,
of like the most boring car ever, which isn't necessarily bad because sometimes that sleeper effect is cool.
yeah,
Having a sleeper kind of car it has some cool factor to it, but to the untrained eye, that is the Toyota Camry with the Lexus symbol on it instead of a Toyota
right.
badge. Yeah.
And I think the 1JZ and the 2JZ are people are notoriously labeled as Toyota motors.
Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and really Lexus is the luxury brand of Toyota, isn't it?
Yeah. But the Camry never came in rear wheel drive.
Right.
There were
Good
some
point.
Toyotas that in the rest of the globe came rear wheel drive, but never in America. And I don't. I went down that rabbit hole a while ago. I don't remember all the brand the model names, but essentially yes, there were some Toyotas that were rear wheel drive, similar to the Lexus IS.
Gotcha. For me, it's a little bit different. Like, if you look at the black one and the teal one have really great looks, but a lot of the other ones, like especially in that kind of champagne color, you're right, looks like completely like a Camry.
And I feel like every car they sold was champagne.
Yeah,
Every car was gray or champagne. All the white ones, all the black ones got totaled. And
yeah. And
only cars that you can buy are gray and champagne.
well, it's kind of funny because I'm sitting here thinking like, man, if I get one of these, I got to get that champagne color. Like it's going to be a
Well,
hard
that
find.
you got no choice. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so you're right. I I think if it's done right, if it has the right body kit on it, whatever else, I think it can look a little more stylish. I remember around about the time this came out, so did PlayStation 2, so did Gran Turismo 2, and one of the hot cars for Gran Turismo 2 was the Altezza, right? Which is the IS300 in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it was just a fun car to drive, but I never really liked seeing them on the street. Like I enjoyed it in the game, didn't enjoy it on the street.
Mm.
And while this is I think this is suggested because you can kind of find them relatively inexpensive, right? These things, like I've seen manuals, or sorry, I've seen automatics in that like $4,000 range. So they're
Yeah.
relatively inexpensive.
Now with like 175,000 miles, but yeah,
Yeah. But like you said, is like, man, you change the oil on these and you get them inspected. You're not doing much else
true.
on Toyotas, right? Uh, so I don't know. It's just hard. As I looked into it more and more, it's interesting. It has double what is it? Double
Control.
control arms
Control.
on the front, which is nice. That also makes the angle kits a little bit more expensive. It looks like there's two versions of the angle kit. There's one that's like a little extension, and then you extend the tie rods, and then there's another one that's like all control. It's like a rebuilt,
You can
just
get,
all.
based on what I looked at, there was a company that made a knuckle for it with You could get a
Yeah.
different knuckle with essentially another Toyota or Lexus ball joint and tie rod that they sold all as a kit, and then there were a couple variations that you could get if you're going that high turn radius route.
Right.
Yeah. Um, but the interesting thing that so as a shop owner, I think I have currently one IS300 customer that's a Gen 1, like the '01 through '05.
Right.
He brings it every 5,000 miles for his oil change, once a year for his inspection. I think we've done some exhaust work on it. We've done some tires and brakes, and that's about it. And it's a younger kid, and he just kind of neglects the car type situation. Um, but I was thinking about like the cars that come through my shop. The one size up, the GS.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think that was ever offered in manual, but I've had several customers with the GS V8, which is the GS 430. So that's kind of interesting to note that in my environment, I've seen way more of those.
You're right.
And it would be like the equivalent of like a 3 Series BMW to a 5 Series BMW, you know? So, and so I did look, and the availability seems to be about the same. But that V8 is, they do move. That V8 is, in the GS, is a nice engine.
So let's look that up really quick. Actually, since you brought it up, you said it
So
was
it'd be
the
it'd
GS
be like
430.
that same year range, GS 430. Yeah.
Right. That's probably that one over here. But let's see. Specs don't want. So that, yeah, 325 pound, 300 horsepower for that
Yeah.
V8.
So automatic, put it in second
Yeah.
gear. They don't really have a whole lot of issues. You just, it's a heavier car, longer wheelbase. Drifting longer wheelbase isn't a bad thing. And I did look, you can pick them up for the, 200,000 mile mark because of the age. They're like 4 or 5 grand. Yeah.
Um.
And then, newer ones and F Sport ones and all that stuff too. So
Yeah. Then you're just getting into like a really expensive car.
correct. Yeah. There, it is odd because it does seem like I went down the rabbit hole of like, I always do this, no matter what it is you're buying, it's like everything you want is just a little bit more than what you want to spend. But it's
Right.
like you can get like a 2019, 2020, IS F Sport for like 30 grand. And it's like, geez, it's only 5 years old with, the latest and greatest, but you're not gutting the interior or not and putting a race
Right.
seat in it and doing that. That's like more of a daily driver type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the advantage of this is you're looking at like four, maybe 8 grand,
Yeah.
something like that. Depends on the
Yeah.
model. Depends on some of the extras that you got with the car. So that makes it a little bit more affordable. I'm sure they'll go even higher depending upon how they've been built and customized, but I really haven't seen them much higher than about 14 with the manual, um, and high mileage. I
Yeah.
didn't do I didn't do an extensive search.
Yeah. I was on Cars and Bids. Oh no, I think I was on the tablet that I'm using. But Cars and Bids showed all like the recent ones that sold, and there were a couple really nice ones in the 20s.
Got
Yeah.
nice. The one other thing that I thought, since we're talking about buying this as a drift car, maybe we decided to stick with the automatic and just stick it in D2. But some of the other things that I thought might be interesting to look into would be things like what's the wheelbase? They do kind of suggest like 97 to 105 for that drift wheelbase, and this comes in at 110.2. So it's a little bit outside of that, but
Oh, okay.
it's not impossible, right?
Right. Okay.
It has it has the 2JZ, which if you don't know is a 3-liter inline six. It's 215 horsepower, not naturally aspirated, which is nice because like we've talked about for endurance cars, this might actually make a better endurance car for us.
That's actually very, very valid point. Yeah. Yeah.
This might actually make a much better endurance car for us because it's got that 6-cylinder, it's got that 250, like 200-ish horsepower, and
multi-link suspension,
Yeah,
well balanced, rear wheel
you know,
drive. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So, I mean, it's pretty quick. The 0 to 60 is 7.3 seconds. Um,
So it's same as a Toyota Camry.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
But you know what's interesting, and they the curb weight is like 3,200 pounds. A lot of people have said that it's pretty heavy. Um, I can't think I did not compare it towards anything else, but 3,200 pounds doesn't seem extensively heavy. When I
Not
saw,
not for not for a saloon.
yeah, not for a four-door car with, front seats,
It's
back
pro
seats, all
it's
that stuff.
it's probably 100 or 200 pounds lighter than a equivalent Mercedes or BMW. A BMW of the same class would be heavier for sure.
Well, I mean, we threw the 350Z on our list, right? And the 350Z, I think, is almost the same weight,
Okay.
and that's a two-door.
Yeah.
So again, I don't really understand the weight thing, and I got to look up the RX-7 because I know people said that thing is pretty heavy too, and that's on our list. But we'll get there. I guess we'll just get there
We'll get
when we
there.
get there.
Yeah, by one we'll have all the weights dialed in. We'll know what's appropriate. But I would say that weight doesn't seem outrageous. I would say that weight seems very a decent weight, like as in that's not too heavy, and it's
Right.
you could do some things to lighten it up if you had to.
So, I don't know. I'm kind of weird with this. Is like I don't know how I like the idea of a four-door car with a cage in it. Like I kind of think that once you start to put a cage in a four-door car, they look ridiculous with it. Especially when like there's like some of the show cars you've seen with where they decide to keep the rear interior in and then they put the cage in, which you can't even get to the seat. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just like I like the idea of the car overall, but once you put a roll bar in it, I think I don't know. But they do sell just a harness bar, so it bolts in on the B pillars.
beep. Yep.
It goes
Okay.
B pillar to B pillar, and you can then run harnesses as well as you can still run the factory seatbelt, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that I
So
mean that's yeah, that I feel like that's all you would really need for what we would be doing anyway.
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how how fast are we really going?
Yep. And then on Monday you put your car seat in and put kids in it.
Yeah.
Neither one of us have car seats anymore, but yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that we know of, right? Um, well, I don't know. I think we kind of touched on a lot of this car. What was after all the research, what was your kind of thinking? Like, is this something you might look into for drifting, or is this like, no,
It would be
this is
like
a
if
pass?
it would probably be a pass, and only because I've driven enough older Lexus to they just don't do it for me. They don't really, sometimes, I don't personally get inspired by their looks. And looks can be so subjective because you can be like, oh, it's the perfect sleeper. It's this, and you can get into that aspect if you want. But in my mind, it's just not where I'm at.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
not what you want.
not
No.
for me. And there's some really nice examples of people that did them up really well, and they are decent cars. It's just not something it inspires me very much.
Yeah, I mean this teal car that I kind of have emphasized a little bit now with the lower splitter and the side skirt definitely looks and it looks like the rear
It
arches have
looks,
been pulled a
yeah,
little bit. That looks a little bit more sleek than your Toyota Camry.
yeah, yeah, that's what if you found something on Facebook Marketplace, it would be like that.
Yeah,
But the paint would be faded. One of the bumpers would have, half be torn off. There would be some issues with it for
yeah,
sure. A little
exactly.
bit of paint work here and there, and it would be like, it would be hard to get into that. Yeah.
Let me actually hold on. I think I got a good one for you here. I just didn't want to do this on camera. Marketplace. Check this one out. This is exactly what you just talked about. And they still kind of want a good amount of money for it too. This one here. All right. Perfect. So, all right. So this one
Yep.
happens to be black. Maybe they painted it. I don't know.
Or
Plastic did,
well, no,
who
the
knows?
bump is black, but the rest of
Oh, that's right. Actually, it is. It is dark gray. It looks black. Um, but there's dents on the hood. The bumper doesn't even fit properly. The I think a tree fell on it.
Yeah, and they want $6,500 for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they still want 6,500 for it, and it's yeah. Are they
and it's old enough to go to the bar and drink.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's like 21 years old. So
yeah.
that is that is what you're kind of
And it says
looking
hot
at.
girls hit curbs, so I don't know. Maybe that's worth another $50. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, you know what? I mean, if using that last car as an example, right? Because it's a little bit beat, and you don't mind like putting a couple more dents and bruises on it anyway. But again, I think I'm at the point where I'm not interested in a Lexus for a drift car. I did like the idea that it had the 2JZ in it. The 2JZ, you know, takes a turbo pretty easy. It makes a lot of power, or could potentially make a lot of power, and I like the idea of building something that we can continue to upgrade rather than like just throw a swap in it. But the swap would probably either be an LS or a 1JZ or 2JZ anyway, right?
potentially.
Having this talk here with you and with you now, I do think that would make a really good endurance car if we could find like, when that time came, and I think that's
I
where that fits.
definitely
That's the slot.
feel
It fits better.
I definitely feel like I would get in a beat up tree fell on it roof Lexus and drive it for 20 hours. That would be more my comfort zone for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, next week, what are we going to talk? We're talking about your number five
Oh,
pick.
oh shoot. Do you remember what my five was?
I do. Do you? I'll give you a
No,
hint.
the
You own
paper.
it.
Wait, the
You
paper's over
own it.
here. Hold on, I'll remember. It
All right.
was
I'm putting them on the
yeah,
spot.
it was yeah. It was the car I already own. A
Yeah.
two-wheel drive manual transmission Toyota Tacoma. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Let's see these. What year was it?
I believe it's a 2002, the one I have. Yeah.
All right. So just
The one I
for,
have is a one owner with 45,000 miles on it. So manual transmission. We did a clutch on it about a year or two ago. It's the club cab short, whatever. So it's not a
yep.
four door. It's not the and it's two-wheel drive. So it would be like,
Probably this little silver one over here,
and
right?
it is silver. Yep. It looks like that. It looks exactly like that.
There you go. All right. And you know what? I think JA had a one in blue, just like that. All right. Well, next week we'll be talking about the Toyota Tacoma, another Toyota. It's amazing again, I would not consider myself a Japanese or JDM person, but it's amazing as I've started this podcast how many Japanese cars I've actually talked about. And I
Well,
never thought I'd be talking about Toyotas.
the one of the big things though is a lot of these games are probably influenced heavily by the global market. So like they're
Right.
making video games and race car games and stuff, and the American market's probably not the biggest, what's the word, purchaser of a lot of video racing games and just games in general. So that's why there's so many European and Japanese spec cars in those type games.
I will be curious. I mean, that being said, I will be curious when it gets time to talk about the Mustang or the Corvette, how we feel about those cars
Yeah.
versus the other cars, right? Like this one was kind of hard because it's one of 10, right? This is the first one we're talking about. At least
Yeah.
when we get into next week's, we can at least be like, well, this is what I liked over
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
IS
So,
or
so I don't really know if I ever got to do like my pros and cons, but I'll just go through
oh
real
yeah,
quick.
let's hit those really quick. Yeah.
Like pro durability, like 100% durability. Another pro is like you can, if you feel like speeding through town, you just look like any other person driving a Toyota Camry through town. You're not. It's not a Mustang. A Mustang gets pulled over. Toyota Camry doesn't. Don't speed. Con, they are kind of getting towards that drift taxi type number as far as I'm concerned. But it's also the reliability that you're paying for. People do pay extra money for Toyotas and Lexus because of the known reliability. What other cons? The availability. You're getting ones that are approaching the 20-year-old mark. and anything 20 years old is going to be several owners and several different potential body colors. So that's a thing for sure.
Yeah, but I'm totally okay with different body colors.
Yeah, I'm all right, good. What other pros and cons do I have?
All right, so I'm not sure if you've seen this. Since you talked about total durability and longevity and stuff like that, somebody decided, and I know I've seen this a couple of times, and I don't know the full story, but they decided to make a Lexus drift limo.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean,
I
they
mean, a
went from,
drift limo and that whole concept is actually pretty cool.
yeah. So
And then you have a bunch of people in the back while you're drifting.
yeah, that'd be cool. Like part of the like
Yeah,
puking in
yeah,
the back, right?
yeah, something. Playing leaners.
Would you full rate bucket seats everywhere?
Yeah, they would have to. Yeah, couple rear facing, couple forward facing. Yeah.
Yeah, the I kind of hit most of my pros and cons. I don't think I specifically went through my list, but I think what you talked about with the with the drift tax or Jap tax or whatever you want to call it for the car is I think that really comes down mostly to how limited it is with manual transmission because now that's like you're very specifically trying to find that because people probably want to spend their money on other things rather than upgrading the transmission right away, right?
Yeah. Well, I quite honestly got to the point where in my searches I wasn't even finding manual transmissions, so I just
Yeah.
figured that just wasn't even an option. Yeah.
I think I found two.
Yeah.
So, and that made me do that also made me wonder like, is it even a thing? But so, all right, cool. Well, I'm excited to talk more next week and
About the
talk
Tacoma.
about the
Right.
Tacoma,
Another yeah.
another Toyota, and I'll be watch. I don't know what motors in that, but I'll be amazed if it's something similar to the
It's a
2JZ in
four
there.
the one
So
that's in mine is a four banger. I can't remember if it's
four cylinder, gotcha.
I think it's a 2.4 four-cylinder. I don't know
Mm,
what the code word for that is, but that's what it is. Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll find out all about it next week.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Try and get a video of me doing a burn on it or something. Yeah.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Well, thanks for joining us this week. I think I'm gonna give this one a thumbs down for a drift car for me, right?
Drift car, not so much. Endurance car, if you found the right one uh, at the right price, could potentially pull the trigger on it
Yeah, there you go.
because I do think it could compete well.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on out, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.